Teslas and protesting and crying and moaning about have to coming back to work. And where is a Democrat to come forward with ideas? I haven't seen that yet. Now, I get the thought, I get the idea that Walz thinks he's among the cutting-edge Democratic figures in the country
without a doubt,
who is trying to take on Trump. But he's offered no ideas about anything because he doesn't have any. But we're now learning that he's telling his town hall audience that our very existence, meaning the Democrats apparently, depends on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Their existence depends on it. All right. He said the party has gotten into a mess because we were not bold enough to double down on issues such as DEI and immigration. The governor said during a town hall event at Rosenberg, Texas, late last week, that Democrats have allowed the Republican Party to define the issue on the aforementioned topics. Well, yes, they have. DEI is an insidious affectation made up in the failed academy. It's absolutely useless, and it's injurious to personal freedom. It should be gone. You have no thought to counter that. It should be gone. It's meaningless. And also, no one in this country wants illegals who are going to become criminals or have arrived here being criminals. Other than that, we want immigrants. It's a country of immigrants. We all get that. But what the hell is this guy babbling about? You have nothing to offer. And he's down in Rosenberg, Texas, and he's saying, I think I'm going to own this. When we see people back off and we see corporations back off to the threats instead of leaning into and knowing we're doing this because it's not only morally the right thing to do. No, it isn't. It's immoral. It's economically the right thing to do. No, it isn't. Ask Disney. And our culture proves that our strength is our diversity. Diversity is a fact. Diversity in and of itself does not construct a value. It is merely a fact. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. Well, you should be a legal immigrant, Walz. We let them define the issue on DEI because they have an idea about it, Walz. And we let them define what woke is. Woke is ridiculous, Walz. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you're damn right, we're proud of these policies. Well, you know why, Walzy? Because you're running out of your fellow party members who are proud of them. I don't know where to go with this, except the guy, obviously, as you well know, drives me nuts.
Well, it's more proof that he doesn't understand the citizenry of this state and this country. You know, he's that far out of touch where a lot of his ilk, and I'm going to say governors and on up, and anybody that works in Washington, they don't understand what our lives are like day to day.
And the fact that they continue to double and triple down, Kenny, is astonishing. So either he's got some really bad people giving him bad advice, or he is just that stupid.
Which is amazing because I wouldn't say that about the senators and representatives that actually work in state government, because most of them have a regular job and they're out and about among their communities, their areas, and they know what we're going through. But it seems like you get to the Washington level or you get to the governor's level where there's a residence and you're protected from the people, they immediately lose touch with us.
53% of Hispanic adults, according to Alpha News, said they approve of a new national program to deport all undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S. illegally. Biden signed an executive order during his first day in office aiming to advance equity and racial justice, which opened the floodgates for his administration to embed DEI programs across federal agencies. Trump's administration quickly reversed these programs during his first days in office. Some polling has shown voters support eliminating DEI-related programs in the government and schools. A poll from the New York Times, Ipsos, conducted in January, found that the majority of Americans, 79%, believe, for example, that transgender female athletes should not be allowed to compete in women's sports. 79%.
That's significant.
Walz did not respond for comment. I think that maybe what people ought to do is just, including me, is shut up and let this guy continue to hand him some more rope.
It seems to me that he's just making it worse for himself.
God, I hope so.
Seems like it.
He's passing himself off, too. I saw some other video of him confronting not confronting, it was a friendly questioner at one of his town halls, and the topic of money came up, and Walz said, well, as you know, I've always been a deficit hawk.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
He's passing himself off as somebody who cares about public finance. He's running the state into bankruptcy.
Did he do it in the same Chris Rock kind of theme where he's got the stand-up
Yes.
bit with the stool and the whole deal?
And they always bring somebody out on stage. Usually it's Mrs. Walz, and they put her in a stuffed chair, and
So, I'm a black man from Harlem, so
Yeah.
I understand the plight of. I mean, his lies are so ludicrous.
And why
My
are
goodness.
I read something very interesting yesterday. Lance Morrow, who died last year, was the fellow who wrote the Time magazine article in 1973 that featured Wendy Anderson on the cover holding up the fish. And it was that famous article, Minnesota, the State That Works. And apparently before he died, Morrow wrote a piece saying how Minnesota went from Tom Sawyer to Huck Finn, how Minnesota completely lost that sterling brand it had. What with everything we know now, the crime and the drugs and the breakdown of the two cities, and on and on and on and on. And Morrow, to some degree, blamed it on things were so good here that the elite white people had it so good, they began to think they should be sending signals of their virtue. So they start installing these worthless politicians because they were appealing to their sense of virtue, that they've had it so good. Let's bring in these people and give them a chance. And, of course, these people have completely ruined the two cities because they don't know what they're doing. Then I went to find more from Morrow, but then learned he died. So I was going to have him on the show, but that'd be tough.
He'd be a bad guest.
It'd be tough. It'd be tough. So I don't know. Anyway, Walz is on the tour and good. I'm not sure he's helping his party or himself, but maybe he is. Doesn't seem so, but maybe he is.
But again, when you were so thoroughly defeated, how can you keep, as Kenny mentioned earlier, how can you continue to keep doubling and tripling down on this same ideology, this nonsense that clearly the American public doesn't want?
Well, here's some of our friends at the American Experiment. DFLers are now pushing the second highest top tax rate of income and the top rate of business tax in the entire country.
Wow.
And I'm sure Walz is fine with that. In February of 2023, Minnesota's management and budget forecast a state government budget surplus of $17 billion for the 2024-2025 biennium. In that historic session, the DFL trifecta blew through that surplus. And between 2019 and 2024, Minnesota state government spending per person and adjusted for inflation increased by 23%. That historic trifecta also hiked taxes and fees by $10 billion. But even this wasn't enough to cover the explosion in state government spending. And in November, just this past November, the Management and Budget Office issued a forecast for a state government budget of $3.5 billion, $5.1 billion when you take into account for inflation. And this month, we learned that Minnesota's fiscal situation has deteriorated even further. The forecast budget surplus for the 2026-2027 biennium is down $116 million, from $616 million in November to $456 million. And the forecast deficit for 2028-2029 biennium is up to $4 billion, or $6 billion if you account for inflation. So we're going in completely the wrong direction. The deficit, the result of gross fiscal mismanagement by the state over the last 2 years, is the central fact of state government financing. How we deal with it, with higher taxes, spending cuts, or some combination of the two, will dominate political and policy discussion in Minnesota for the next 2 years. And no one confronts Walz, no member of the media. Well, American Experiment does. Alpha News does.
It's
the Star Tribune is just merely a house organ for him.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's easy for him to hide because he only talks to the people that will carry the water for him.
And when I say the Star Tribune's a house organ, that's not hyperbole. The publisher, Steve Grove, was Walz's hand-picked director of economic development, and then for some reason got this gig at the Star Tribune. But the Star Tribune is never going to expose Walz's failures. It's just, you can't rely on it for that. And by the way, as long as I'm ranting, the Star Tribune charges way too much money for being such an inadequate newspaper.
$3 today.
That's more than $700 for a year if you want it delivered.
And
mine doesn't even get delivered.
It went up today, and I took note, and I don't know if I should be upset by this or not, but on the front page, 1, 2, 3 stories. And then when you go inside, all these stories come from either the Associated Press or the New York Times. The majority of the pieces in the Star Tribune are reprints from the New York Times. And it's all propaganda, Joe, all of it.
Yeah, but this is an outgrowth of the decline of newspapers, that there really isn't anybody tasked with confronting Walz. That's assuming you could get Walz to sit down and admit his miserable failings, which he's not capable of doing. He is really delusional about the financial trouble the state's in. And instead of dealing with it, he's out on his tour. And people here seem to be accepting of that. And the Republicans are doing a horrible job of producing candidates. Just a horrible job. So the future isn't that bright.
No, it's not.
Not for the state of Minnesota.
Thank you for that on a Tuesday.
It's trash day.
By the way, I'm done.